everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our How to Develop NFC Mobile Applications with TracerPlus. I'm Kristin, one of the account managers here at PTS. And we have a lot to cover today, so we'll move things along at a good pace for you. We'll be breaking today's webinar into two parts. First, I'll give an overview of PTS and TracerPlus, and then Joe will demonstrate our NFC features that TracerPlus has to offer. As we move through the webinar, please type your questions and comments into the question panel provided, and we'll answer some of those after Joe's presentation. So Portable Technology Solutions is the name of our company, and we're the developers of TracerPlus and Clearstream RFID software. We're a modest-sized company with offices both in New York and New Jersey. And while our beginnings began with a product called Tracer, developed for Palm devices, we've scaled that product to what is now known as TracerPlus, which includes compatibility with Windows Mobile, CE, Android, and iOS devices. We incorporate not only barcode scanning features, but RFID and NFC technology. So although Clearstream RFID is not the product we'll be discussing today, I did want to make you aware of it. Clearstream, like TracerPlus, is user configurable, and it runs on fixed RFID readers. Our customers often use it in conjunction with TracerPlus when utilizing RFID. And much like TracerPlus, you can set it up on your own or use our services to set it up for you. You can control conveyor operations, track materials at all stages of production, as well as control lights and alarms and GPIO devices. In our next release, which should be fairly soon, we'll be including email reporting and alerts. So if you're interested in learning more about our fixed RFID solutions, please visit us at clearstreamrfid.com. So what is NFC? NFC is a subset of RFID and typically requires very close proximity to scan, typically 1 to 6 inches from the actual tag. And you may ask, what does NFC have over barcodes or RFID? Well, NFC radios are available on most consumer smartphones and tablets. And since most organizations have these devices already, the expense of purchasing barcode scanners or RFID scanners is not necessary. So it's a great way to enable automated data collection for those low budget projects while providing an ROI for many pen and paper processes you may be doing today. And NFC is less expensive than RFID solutions and is a great way to introduce your organization to RFID technology. So TracerPlus mobile NFC applications are easy to develop and deploy on most Android and iOS phones and tablets. Some commonly used applications include high-value mandatory asset tracking audits. Inspection forms are quicker to complete and are not affected by bad handwriting. Check-in and out of items you can check in and check out virtually anything from tools to people, and it's never been more affordable. And security rounds, this is really popular. So security rounds are impossible to fudge when scanning NFC tags is required at a location point. So those are some of the examples of NFC, what NFC is all about, and Joe's gonna demonstrate creating a quick NFC application that you could actually do today directly from your Android cell phone or tablet. So how does one get started? So I'll quickly go over the resources that you have available to you. You can either do it yourself if you have the time and resources to learn TracerPlus skills. That option's there for you. If you don't have time or the resources to do it, we have services that can create the application for you. Either way, the results will allow you to take control and streamline your data collection process. So let's say you don't have time to, install the software and create your own TracerPlus app. Here at PTS, we keep the process pretty simple. You'll start by working side by side with one of our account managers who can quickly determine if TracerPlus is right for you. And we can also provide additional information and pricing at that time. Once you've made the commitment to move forward, you're then paired with one of our solution architects who will finalize our scope of work and begin creating your custom application. They will schedule time to deliver and train you and others in your organization if needed on the application. And then from there, you're on your own to test the application out in the real world. We can revisit and revise, and so long as it's within that written scope of work, there would be no additional charges. And typically, this process takes about 3 to 4 weeks for you to have a working application. And what's really cool about it is we don't lock down the application. So at any time, you can download TracerPlus and make those modifications. You can even add to that application on your own at no additional charge. It's a pretty seamless process. So let's say you want to create the app yourself. PTS works really hard at providing resources that enables our users to do it themselves. I'll share some of these resources with you as we get a little further on. Much like the process we take when developing your scope of work, you would do the same thing. We encourage you to outline your current process and outline the application that matches that. And it's a great time to, kind of revisit your process and enhance that. So the next step, or the first step actually, would be to download and install TracerPlus and TracerPlus Connect. TracerPlus Desktop is the software that gets installed on your PC or laptop and is used to create the application. Joe will use this software to demonstrate the NFC application today. And TracerPlus Connect is also installed on your PC or laptop and is used to seamlessly sync the data you collected back to your existing database or even Excel sheets. So here are a list of online resources that we here at PTS talk about all the time, such as our user guides available in PDF formats and our knowledge base articles that are easily searchable with keywords, and they help reveal answers and sometimes even step-by-step instructions. All of these resources can be accessed from our website at tracerplus.com and are provided with you as quick links when you receive an email after downloading TracerPlus Desktop. We encourage everyone to work with one of our account managers. We are here to help you navigate these free resources, and if you can't find the answer, we'll be sure to get you the answer and the help that you need. If you don't know who your account manager is, simply email our sales department at sales@tracerplus.com, and one will be assigned to you. Our YouTube videos are probably the most utilized resource, which is why I presented a slide on it all together. The search box, which I tried to highlight here with a circle in the screenshot, is very helpful. For example, if you need to learn more about grid controls or lookups, simply use this search box and videos on that subject will populate. And our playlist catalogs our webinars by subject, which is really helpful when trying to find something quick. And of course, please, if you see a video that you like it and subscribe to our channel. Our open office hours are a great way to get classroom type training twice a week. Simply log on to one of our scheduled go-to meetings, raise your hand and ask a question. One of our engineers will be on hand to answer these questions and guide you to available resources specific to your needs. We also occasionally have users sign in just to listen to what other folks are saying. It's a great way to learn more about TracerPlus. Our pre-sales support can be set up by your account manager. Typically, we set you up in about 2-week intervals. So when you're ready to get started, make sure to reach out to your account manager to get set up. Now, if you're short on time, you may just find the perfect app already built in our online app library. These are applications that can be used as is or modified to meet your exact needs. We also have an NFC application on our website as well. It's a great way to get started. And it's also important to note that when you install TracerPlus from your Android device via the Google Play Store, you'll be all set up with, I think it's about 5 sample applications. So let's say you're moving right along, creating your TracerPlus app, and all of a sudden you get stuck. You just can't figure out how to do something. Well, we have a solution for that. We call it FastTrack Training, and you can purchase 2-hour, 4-hour, and 8 blocks of time, and you get to work side by side with one of our skilled TracerPlus solution architects. And we can even provide a recording that you can refer back to later. So whether we create the app for you or you created it yourself, you'll want to protect your investment. And our support plans are a great way to do that. Not only will you have access to our support team here in the US, but licensed security should anything happen to your device. Upgrades are also included and a must for any deployment that needs security when operating systems are upgraded across all devices, PCs, and laptops. Working with our account managers and our pre-sales support team is a great way to experience how our support system works. So again, really encourage you to reach out to your account manager. So schedule time. Again, here's the information to contact your account manager if you don't know who that is. We'll review your project, talk about your resources that you have available, and help you develop next steps. We also have a network of partners worldwide who can provide complete solutions for our customers. So not only create TracerPlus apps, but also help integrating that data with your current database or even perhaps providing you with one. So please call or email us and let us know how we can help. So now it's time to watch Joe, and I will hand it over to him. Again, please start typing questions into the question panel so that after Joe, we can review some of those.
Thank you, Kristin.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for today's NFC webinar. I'm just going to give you a demonstration of how to use NFC in TracerPlus and even create a quick NFC app from scratch. So you should be seeing my screen now, which I'm showing our desktop tool, which you would use to actually create your mobile app and then deploy it to your device of choice. So what I'm going to start out with today is one of our samples. So if you go to our samples section here, you click that icon, you'll see our list of different categories here. And if I go to the event tracking, that's going to show us the different apps that are available within event tracking. So I'm going to choose the NFC app here. So we have an NFC badge reader app. So if I click that, it's going to give a brief explanation of what the app does, as well as some screenshots of what it may look like on your device. I'm just going to click next, and then I'm going to import that into the desktop tool. So as Kristin mentioned, these apps are free to use. You can use them as is or tweak to your needs. So we could essentially just use this right now. So if I go ahead and look at this application, we have a clock in out session, which is used for clocking employees in and out using NFC badges. So you'll see here we have an action, which would be an in or out, a date time of that actual scan, and then their employee number, which would be our NFC ID. And if we just do a quick jump to the form designer, You'll see here's our form designer and what it would look like once deployed to our device. And we also have a view record section, or session, I should say, which looks like it's used to actually view the scans that were performed on the device. You can see all your in and outs before you actually sync them at the end of the day. So I'm going to use a tool called Visor, which is a free plugin to Chrome, which enables me to show you my Android device. So you'll see I had tweaked some settings here, but if I were just to deploy this as is from the Solution Center, I would click the Build Deploy. In my case, I'm going to use the Deploy server. So that's going to generate a QR code, which I can then scan with my Android phone. So by going to the menu and then clicking Download Project, scan QR code, use camera, and then I will scan this barcode. It's going to download that project. And then once I refresh it, you'll see that I have just the clock in out and the view records. So you'll notice that I did make some tweaks to it just based on the phone I'm using, because you'll see that some of the labels are dropping down to the next line. So we can see that we can actually modify this project now. So I'm going to go to the clock in, clock out. I'm just going to select both of these controls, and I'm just going to drop their font size down to, let's say, 48. So hopefully they won't get cut off. And we also have some duplicate control IDs, so I'm just going to change those. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at the view record session on my device. So there's the grid that would display our records. We also see that that is a little bit large for our screen here, and that's due to some scaling being done. So what we can actually do is adjust this form size to something a little bit more closer to our device. So I'll make that bigger. We'll change our font. Let's see, 28. And now let's go ahead and deploy these changes. I'll click this Build Deploy, and we'll deploy. And if I jump back to the device, I can go back to that Download Project section. But instead of having to scan the QR code again, since this project is now in our list of active projects, I can simply click the Download button to get that update. And if I click Done, that's going to reload. Now let's jump into the actual clock in out session. So now we'll see these are no longer cut off. We see our date times. We could still size this more appropriately for this device. But I'm just going to select in. And then what I'm going to do is hover my phone over one of our NFC tags here. So you'll see that quick flash there. So what it did was scan that NFC tag and then auto submit that record locally to the device. Then I could click the clock in function again for another person, and I'll scan that again. So now we should have two records. But another improvement we can make here is that if you are clocking in and out multiple people, you're not going to want to have to keep clicking the in or out. So what we can do is jump to our clock in out session, go to our field settings, action, and then go ahead and turn off the clear on submit so that that retains. And we can also actually have this field go to our employee number field, and we'll just take a look at our employee number. We see that it's auto submitting, and then we'd want it to go back to the employee number. So once again, I'll just deploy these changes. Come back to our device, go to our download project, click download. That should get our updates. Click our back button here to reload. Now let's go ahead and click the in. Then we can scan. And we can just keep scanning while it's maintaining that value of clock in. One thing we can also do is get rid of that keyboard that you saw pop up. So I can do that by going to the form designer, clicking on employee number control, and change this hide keyboard to always, so we don't want it to show. And let's go back to our device and download that update. So let's say we're doing outs now. So notice the keyboard's not popping up anymore. Now I'm just going to keep scanning some NFC tags here. So we just scanned 3 badges. Now I can go ahead and hit back. Let's go to view records. Now here's all the data that we actually scanned. We scanned, it looks like 8 tags, 5 ins, 3 outs, along with their date time. So now what we want to do is actually sync this data back to a backend database. So we're going to do that using our TracerPlus Connect software. So that is open here, and I actually already have a project for it, but I'm just going to show you how to do this to actually create a sync. So what I'm going to do is delete my current profile, and I'm going to add a new profile. In this case, it'll be a sync profile, but you can also set up a live profile to actually save data in real time. But in this case, it'll be more of a batch type sync over Wi-Fi, WAN, or Ethernet for your Android devices, as well as iOS. Let's go ahead and select our TracerPlus desktop project. Search for that project. I believe it was NFC Badge Reader. Yes, that's our project name. NFC Badge Reader. We'll select that and create the profile. So I can name this sync from device. Then I can actually add a sync process to this. And we'll call it sync badge scan. Then we'll select our source, being the device. That would be TracerPlus. We're going to sync it from our clock in out session because that's where we're actually saving the records to. On the destination side, you'll see that we can sync to ODBC databases. We've recently added a direct SQL Server integration in our upcoming 10 release, as well as going to Excel, text, or Salesforce. So I'm just going to choose ODBC and our TracerPlus Connect sample, which is included with Connect, which is a sample access database. I'm just going to go to our 5-field sample. And then we just want to map up our fields down below. So we'll say that action, we're going to sync to field 1, date time, we're going to sync to field 2, and then employee number, we're going to sync to field 3 in our sample table. Then I can choose how we post this data on a sync. In this case, I'm just going to keep appending it to this table, but you could also override or update. And then we want to delete this data off of the device on a successful sync. I'm just going to enable that. And we'll save our project. And if we jump over to the data viewer, I'll just delete these scans here. So we have a blank table with 5 fields. Now what we need to do is tell the device how to actually sync this data. So if we go back over to desktop, I'm going to go ahead and add a new session. You could essentially add a sync button to one of these sessions, but I like creating a dedicated sync session. So I'll add a new session. We'll call it sync. And I'll remove any unnecessary fields. We do need to keep 1 field here. Then I'll jump over to the form designer, start with a blank canvas, and then add a button to the form. And we'll just call this sync. I'll make it bigger. We can center it using our alignment tools here. And now what we need to do is define this button as an actual sync button. So we can do so by setting its button action to what we call do sync. And there's two key components to defining a sync button, and that would be the sync host ID and the sync profile ID. So the host ID is the PC or server that Connect's going to be running on, and where we actually define that host is under the Project Connect tab. So we want to add a host. You can add it by IP address or PC name. I'm just going to add an IP address here. And we'll notice that this host ID is 1. So then if we go back to our sync session, that's what we're going to set as our host ID. So that's host 1. Now we need to tell this button which profile in Connect we're going to sync. So if we jump back over to Connect, we'll see that this profile ID is 1. So that's what we'll set our sync profile ID to. Set that to 1. So now when we click this button, it's going to look for host 1 and sync profile 1. What it would do is sync any processes that you define in profile 1. So I could add additional sync processes within this profile, or I can add a separate profile, maybe something that syncs data to the device. Then on the client side here, I can add a separate button that would sync that profile. Now that our sync is configured, let me deploy these changes to our device. Go back to our device, download project. And now we see our newly added sync session. So before I said that we would actually be syncing the data from the clock in out. So if we actually look at the view data section of clock in out, this is where you'll see the data that we're actually saving. So this is what we're going to sync over to our database. So if we just bring up Connect and look at the synchronized page, this is going to show you some sync activity once we press that sync button. I'm going to go into the sync session, press our sync button. You'll see it synced our 8 records very quickly. And if I go back over to the data viewer and refresh, there's our 8 records. So our type of process, whether it's in or out, our date time of that scan, as well as the NFC ID. So one thing I want to mention, the NFC tags I'm actually using today is a new tag we've been testing out. It's what they call a combo tag. So it's both UHF RFID as well as NFC. You could actually utilize these for both types of scenarios. Maybe you're doing inventory scans using UHF of items in a room, but maybe a manager wants to take their phone and walk up to an item, actually scan the tag with his phone using NFC to maybe view info about that item, maybe when it was last scanned, and so on. So these are tags that we're currently testing and hopefully will be available soon. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the NFC specific settings. So let me go ahead and just create a new project real quick. And once we create a new project, we can choose what platform we're creating it for, whether it be Windows Mobile, Android, or iOS. In this case, it'll be Android. And you'll see it as a project name. We can call it NFC Demo. And then we also have a session. So a session is basically a form with a data table behind it. And each session can capture up to 100 fields of data. Each project can hold up to 32 different sessions. So you can actually do multiple applications with a single device. We can call this NFC scan. And then we can actually define some fields. So we could say date, maybe NFC ID. Maybe we have a description of the item. and maybe a location. And we can get rid of all the remaining fields. Location, we can set this to a drop-down, but you'll see we also support checkboxes, radio buttons. We can do calculations as well as capture signature and images. And then I can enter drop-down values. We'll call it room 1, room 2, room 3. However, you can also sync drop-down data from your database to these drop-down lists. NFC ID will just be a scan of the tag. Date, we can set to data type, date, time. And we'll just select month, day, year. And description, what we can do is look this up based on the tag scanned. Maybe we'll have a separate session here called item list. And this will be NFC ID and then description. And then we can remove all the unused fields. So now our description we can set up to be a lookup. So we enable the lookups. We look into the item list based on the NFC ID to pull in that description. So now we can actually define some of our attributes. So we want this to start on the NFC ID since the date will be automatically populated. We'll set our key field to the same. Now we're going to start on NFC ID. Once we scan an NFC, we don't need to go to description because that's going to be looked up. We can jump to location. And then location can be actually just go to itself. We'll end up clicking a submit button here. All right, so now our fields are defined. One thing to touch on, we do also have validation features. So you can validate data that's actually being scanned. So if I scan an NFC tag that didn't exist, we could validate on that. Now, if we jump over to the form designer, I'll create a default form and I'll make it a little bit bigger to size more appropriately to my device. And using our alignment tools, we can sort of align this form, make it look a little bit nicer. And we'll just make this bold. I'll just do some quick tweaks here. We don't have to make it look that good. I just want to show you some of the features here. So now if we jump over to data capture, so you'll see here you can actually enable and disable the NFC scanner as well as barcode scanners and RFID scanners on supported devices. So by default, NFC is always enabled. And the way it works is that if you have focus in the field and you scan an RFID tag, that data will go into that field that you're focused on. However, one thing you can do is add a smart form rule. So we can say NFC read complete. So we can actually put that into the NFC ID field. So that means that regardless of where we're currently focused, if we scan an NFC tag, it should always go to that NFC ID field rather than some other field. And once we actually read the NFC, we can actually trigger that after scan event, which is what we showed here. It's going to go to the location field. All right, so let's go ahead and deploy this. So as shown before, I can come here to my download project. So since we now have a different project, we can do the QR code method here. So let me just select that. And then let's bring my device back up. So we could go scan QR code, use camera, or we can click this refresh button. And then if we go to the drop-down list, you'll see I actually have a bunch of different projects in here. But if I select the NFC demo and click download, this will download that project. So there's our NFC scan and our item list. So we have nothing in our item list right now. We should have nothing in NFC scan because we cleared those scans out on our sync. So let's just add our item lists. So you'll see I didn't set up a smart form rule for this session, so it just read into the field that it was focused on. So say this is item 1. Submit that. Scan the next tag. That is item 2. And I'll scan a third tag. So there's our 3 items. Now if we go to NFC scan and scan one of these, you'll see that's item 2. If I hover over item 3, item 1. So you'll see that even though it's currently focused on location, because of that smart form rule we added, it's automatically going to that NFC ID and is triggering our lookup here. So I can go back, item 3, item 2, item 1, and I can select a room and then submit that data. So that's the functionality of NFC and how you may use it for your particular application. It's very useful for employee tracking with badges, equipment scanning. If you want to know what information on a particular piece of equipment, you can just walk right up to it, place your phone on the tag or in the vicinity of the tag and capture what that is. Even for useful for asset tracking. So one thing I do want to mention, I was demonstrating this on TracerPlus 10, which we are hoping to release towards the end of next week officially. So it's been a long time coming, but we're looking forward to getting this out to you guys. But that's pretty much what I wanted to show today. So I'll pass it back over to Kristin.
Great. Thanks, Joe. All right. Everyone have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our content, be sure to like and subscribe and visit our channel below for more. You can also find us online at TracerPlus.com or on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. If you have any questions, feel free to call or email us at any time, and we'll be happy to help.